Good afternoon. Today I have the lovely Chris with me. Hiya, Chris. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am Chris Whitaker, multiple award-winning author, as you can see. Shall I move out of the way? So I was going to be sipping from that tankard thing, and I am the author of Tall Oaks, All the Wicked Girls, We Begin at the End, and The Forevers, which you can just see back there, which is my debut YA book. And I've had a really good year because We Begin at the End has done really well, and I've had lots of lovely messages from readers, and yeah, it's been really lovely.
Yeah. Did you always know that you wanted to be a writer?
I did not. No, I was one of those people that had no idea what they wanted to do when I was at school. Did you, out of interest?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I had friends like that, and they kind of wanted to be doctors and lawyers and things like that, and so they were on the road they wanted to be on. But I just thought that something would jump out, to me, and it just never really happened. And it seems like such a big thing, doesn't it? When you're 18 and you're supposed to decide what you want to do for the next 30 years, or not necessarily do, but just be on the right path. And my school was very much like that. They were like, they kind of preach that you can be anything so long as you choose it now, so long as you get it right, because otherwise it's quite difficult, isn't it, if you go down a path. Like, I was worried about choosing A levels and then thinking about going to university, which I didn't, but I would have just chosen to go for the lifestyle that goes with it, rather than because I wanted to do anything specific. I didn't want to be a writer at all. I've always been a reader since I was a kid. The library is my favorite place in the world. But no, it seems like one of those out of reach things, like not a real job, getting to tell stories for a living. I used to think it'd be amazing, but it didn't seem attainable to someone like me.
And that's really common, actually. And it's quite sad, really, that it's not thought of as an option.
I think there's a lot more now, isn't there? There's a lot more creative writing courses and things like that are open to people, and agencies and publishers run their own courses and things. But yeah, it just seemed. But then again, I don't think I could have been a writer when I was younger. When I was like 20, I don't think I could have written a book. I don't know why. I don't even think it's life experience or anything like that. I just don't think I would have been able to commit the amount of time and energy and chunk of my life, into doing something like that. I mean, I used to, when you're at school and you have to write 500 words or something like that, and it seems like, the biggest thing ever, and it's 500 words, and then a book is 100,000 words. It's too daunting, isn't it? It seems like a mountain that you can't possibly climb.
So what made you take the plunge and go for it?
I read a book called The Last Child by John Hart, and I've talked before about I was stabbed when I was quite young, and then I lost loads of money in the city, and I had a really tough time mentally, and some PTSD and things like that, and so writing helped me. I wasn't writing books, I was just writing. I read about this therapy technique where you sit down and write about the bad things that have happened to you, and you change the people involved and things like that. And so that was my experience with writing up to that point. Like, I dipped in and out of it whenever I was stressed, whenever I was having a rough time. I'd turn on my computer and just start typing and writing, and I'd write random scenes from We Begin at the End. So I'd write, a bit of Duchess, the character in it, and it was just scenes that didn't run together, and it wasn't supposed to be a story or a book. But I read The Last Child by John Hart. I don't know if you've ever read a John Hart book. No, he's bigger. He's massive in the US, and so this book, The Last Child, it's about a missing child. It's just beautifully written, and I found it really inspiring. And then I did some research and read an interview with John where he talked about how he was a successful lawyer, and he quit his job in order to write. And at that point, I was about to turn 30 and have been working in the city for nearly a decade. And I was a bit miserable. It just didn't feel like, I just didn't fit, really. I I wasn't happy, basically, is the easiest way of saying it. And so I look back over the past 10 years or most of my life and looked at the thing that made me happy and the thing that I always turned to, and it was writing. And so I thought there's something in that. So I quit my job without consulting my pregnant wife, who was a student. And it was this overwhelming feeling, I need to make a change. And I made it, and then began to research agents and things like that, because I had no idea. I didn't know you needed a literary agent, and I didn't know how hard it was to get a publishing deal. And I just knew I wanted to write. I just wanted to tell stories, and I kind of naively thought that everything else would come with it. If I work hard enough, everything will be okay, and that's not always the case. I know that. I know that now. Had I known it then, I might not have done it. If I'd known the amount of submissions that agents get every week, and the amount of authors they take on every year, the numbers are kind of scary, aren't they? And they're heavily stacked against you. But I rolled the dice, I guess, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, turning 30 has that effect on people, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's funny, and I'm about to turn 40 in a couple of months. And so I'm wondering what I'm going to do next. I'll probably just jack it all in and do something completely different without telling anyone. I'll just buy a boat or something, go lobster fishing, something like that I don't know how to do, and will probably be not very good at. But no, I think I've found the thing. I think you're lucky if you find the thing, don't you? I mean, most people work purely for money. I did it for most of my life, and that's fine. I just felt that there was more out there, or there was something missing, and it was writing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a couple of years from 40, so hopefully by then I'll know. I'm sort of getting there, I think. But
you're so much younger than I do.
You've got baby face as well.
For a while I used to get asked for ID, like even into my 30s, and it hasn't happened for ages. And then we were on holiday in Greece a couple of months ago, and they wouldn't serve me. I was trying to get a gin and tonic at the bar, and I was with my son, who is 10. And I said, "This is my son next to me." And then they made me take my mask off. And as soon as I did, she went, "Oh, sorry." So I'm guessing the lower half of my face is really old. Just this eye line above is young. So I think I'm going to keep wearing a mask indefinitely.
Yeah, I think when I was away, I was brushing my hair and I noticed that the greys are starting to come through. I need to do my roots again. I forgot to.
I know, I'm getting a few just on the sides, but my dad keeps accusing me of dyeing my hair. Like, you see, because he's obviously got loads of grey hairs because he's just turned 70. But I haven't yet really, but they're going to come. I know they are. I don't know whether to just take them out though. Just start pulling them out.
No, don't do that.
I don't want to go grey though. I still feel like I'm like 20, so I shouldn't. Okay. We'll see. Maybe it'll happen overnight.
Maybe, yeah. My first grey hair, I was 30, and it was like that long, and it literally stuck up like that. I was like, "You bastards!" Bad times. I haven't had
distinguished. Maybe we're not getting older. We're getting more distinguished. Maybe we're getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't say more mature, because definitely that is not the case.
No, I was talking to a friend the other day about the point when you realise you're an adult, and I'm still waiting for it. I think I still need my parents, but I talk to my dad about certain things and need advice constantly, and I wonder when that changes. Even though I've got 3 kids, it's a funny thing, isn't it, being an adult? I wonder if you never feel like that though.
Yeah, well, I mean, my granddad is 94 and he is the biggest child.
Yeah, that's good. I thought you were going to say he's an adult, but no.
He still takes the piss out of waitresses when we go out, and he's always making silly jokes and stuff. So I'm pretty sure that never happens. Yeah,
well, that's good, because I think my parents are adults, so I can't be an adult. because I'm their child. That's how my mind works. I don't know what that makes my children, babies, all of them, for their whole lives. That's why.
Yeah. I work with, well, we've just had a new 16-year-old start at where I work, and she is just a baby. I'm like, oh, that does make me feel old then. I'm like, wow.
I've done some school talks, and I sometimes look at the kids like I'm one of them, you know, like the 18-year-olds that are in the sixth form, and I think we're the same. And I could be their dad. Yeah. Tragic, isn't it? It's really tragic.
Yeah, it's just cruel, is what it is. Out of all the books you've written so far, do you have a favourite character?
Duchess, the outlaw Duchess de Radley from We Begin at the End. Just because she's been with me for most of my adult life, you know, since I wrote her first ever line when I was 19. You know, I'm now 39, so 20 years I've been with this character. So it's, yeah, she is. It was hard to, I still miss her. It was hard to say goodbye. It was hard to finish that book, you know, and think that I might not come back to it, and I might not come back to this character. And yeah, so Duchess, I would say. With second place is a tough one. I really love Thomas Noble in the book, Duchess's love interest, reluctantly, and Manny from Tall Oaks, Noah from All the Wicked Girls. Yeah, it's yeah, they're all teenagers really, aren't they? So, yeah.
There seems to be a pattern here emerging.
That's it. But yeah, overall Duchess, I think you can't put that much into a character over that long without them, you know, kind of working their way into your brain forever, in your heart. And I just spent, yeah, it was just, she was just so difficult to write, and she evolved so much over the time that I spent writing her, and the time I spent writing her dialogue. She just felt really real. She just felt really, really real, which is nice, because that's how you want your characters to feel, and that's how you want readers. You know, you don't want readers to constantly remember this is fiction. You know, you just want to, when I read a book, I just want to completely get lost in it, you know, and forget the world around. And the same is true when I'm writing. That's how I do it. You know, I forget everything around me, and I'll forget to get the kids from school and things like that. And that happens all the time.
If you were to be a character in any of your own books, which book would you choose?
Which book?
Yeah.
I think Tall Oaks is quite a nice town to live in, apart from the child abduction thing. I think it's it's a beautiful town. You know, I found a few towns in California that are like Tall Oaks. I can't remember the names of them. When I was writing the book, I looked at pictures and read lots of non-fiction, and I tend to do that for all my books. But yeah, I could happily live in Tall Oaks. You know, it seems like a really lovely place to live.
And what's the most interesting thing you found when researching your books?
Probably just how staggeringly beautiful Montana is. You know, I haven't been there, but I found a book in the library, and it's just pictures of Montana through the seasons, and it's like they look like paintings. It looks unreal. You know, it's just so incredibly beautiful, and it's now I have to go there, and I've been booked now 3 times to go to the US for book stuff, and I keep having to move it because of COVID. And I think the paperback comes out next March in the US, so I will try and head over there and see as much of it as I can, and try and do some book events so that I can say that it's work and expense the whole thing. Yeah, that's the plan anyway. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Do you hide any secret jokes or messages or Easter eggs in your books?
I mentioned Tall Oaks in all the books. You know, that the words Tall Oaks are in there. That's just a throwback to sometimes when I'm writing, it can be so difficult, you know, to write a book, to write a good book. That's what I aim for. It can be so difficult just to get to the finish line, that I lose sight of why I did it in the first place, you know, and it starts to feel like a job, and it starts to feel like there's all this pressure, there's all this expectation, there's deadlines, and, you know, teams of people waiting for this thing that I need to do. So I remember back when I was in the city and I was miserable, and I had the idea for Tall Oaks. And so I write Tall Oaks in the books to remind me of that, to remind me, you know, you're doing this because you love it, first and foremost, and everything else is secondary. You know, everything, all the stuff that comes with it, and the perceived success is just like, it's a bonus. You know, I would do it, and I did do it for free, you know, for many years, and I did it just for fun. And I, you know, even if I didn't have a publishing deal, I would carry on writing, absolutely, you know, because I love it, and I need it in my life. And so Tall Oaks reminds me of that.
Well, that's lovely. When you're doing your edits, what's your most overused word or phrase that you have to constantly cut out?
It changes from book to book. In We Begin at the End, there was a lot of glancing. There were so many glances, and it became, in the US version of the book, the assistant editor in the US, his name is Connor, and I, in the acknowledgements, it says, thank you to Connor for glancing my way. And that's because I picked up on that. And it became like a thing in the margins, like how many times can people glance? And you just don't realise you're doing it. You know, you don't, I think probably in Tall Oaks, there was a lot of frowning. Maybe in All the Wicked Girls, there was a lot of sighing. So yeah, they're all me being tired, aren't they? Sighing, frowning. Yeah, so glancing. There's also a lot of swearing in Tall Oaks. There was a lot. I think I did a count once, and it was a lot. You know, there's a character called Manny in Tall Oaks that he's got such a foul mouth, and I was worried about it, but people took it in, you know, how it was meant to be. That character, how Manny was meant to be. He's not rude or anything like that. It's just his way, you know. Do you notice if you're reading a book, if an author uses a lot of the same?
I do beta reading, so I have to notice.
So you definitely.
Yeah. Sometimes if it's a lot, then yeah, I will.
What are the most overused words? I'm going to try and avoid it from now on. What do you see cropping up?
What is it? I know, and I ask this question a lot, and just is quite a frequent one that comes up. And like tears rolling down the face and stuff is something that's used loads.
Yeah.
And shrugging. Something else as well that I'm beta reading a book at the minute, and something came up, and I'm just like, oh, people say it all the time. I can't think of what it is.
I was talking to an agent once, and I said, what do you get sick of when people send you submissions? And she said, don't start the book with a long description of the weather. So that always stuck in my head. So now when I pick a book up, I look for it, and I deliberately avoid it. Don't begin with it. It's fine later on, but don't start with this. So it's funny what you remember.
Yeah. What you notice after a while. I'm trying to think. I can't think of what that other phrase is, but yeah, as soon as I pick the book up, it will be there again.
Yeah.
And I've just completely forgotten what I was going to ask you next now, which is fine.
Should we talk about
yeah, let's talk about the weather. It's all right today, actually. Anyway,
it is. I work. So I mentioned before to you, I think before we started, that I've just finished my job at the library, and there's a lovely lady that I work with at the library, and we made a pact to never talk about the weather while we were there, and if we did, we got fined. Because it's like the go-to that everyone that we talk to talks about the weather. So it became a thing. You can never talk about the weather. Let's do that, Donna. Whenever we talk, we can never mention the weather.
Okay, that's fine.
More interesting things to talk about in the world.
Yes, absolutely. It's a deal. So have you made lots of author friends since you became an author?
I have. I've been so lucky. That's been the best thing. I think my number one favorite thing about being an author is the lovely people that you get supporting you and get to surround yourself with, and and crime writing festivals, it's never more apparent than when you're at a festival and no one is alone. You know, you can just walk into it, and having just met these people on Twitter or just read their books, and everyone is so quick to smile and say hello and just offer you support. And when I first started, when I wrote Tall Oaks, I was with a publisher, an imprint at Bonnier called 27, and they only published debuts. And so there was a big group of us on Twitter. We had a Twitter, a private group thing, and then we were all going through it together at the same time. So it was really lovely. As you know, it can be like sometimes like being thrown in at the deep end. You know, all of it, 1 minute you're writing alone, you know, and then querying agents and things like that, and then the next you're, you know, editing for real and going in and looking at covers and things like that. And it can be a bit overwhelming, and you can forget, you know, what kind of questions to ask, things like that, what to look out for. And it was nice to have everyone go through it together. So yeah, so I just had a really great publication experience, and I have had with every book since. You know, it's just been overwhelmingly positive. It's just everyone that I've worked with and everyone that I've met in publishing is just so passionate about books, you know, and you're all on the same team, and you all want the same thing, and you all want to reach as many readers as you can and produce the best book that you can, and it's just such a lovely industry in that respect.
And you said when we first started that you've had a lot of feedback from readers. Have you had any strange or really funny feedback?
Oh, endless. I attract the I won't say weirdos. I'll say quirky, interesting. I attract the interesting reader. Yeah, endless requests for me to sign certain things. When I've done book clubs, it's not always books that people want signed, which is entertaining. I've had some nice gifts that people send me. Anything weird? One person wanted me to write a story with them in it, and they were very serious about it as well. It was this really nice lady, but she just was very insistent that she be a lead character, not necessarily the lead. And it was really, I would never do it. You know, you get people that put their friends in and stuff like that in books, and it would pull me out of the story, I think. You know, if I was writing something and I recognize someone because I always get asked, you know, are any of the characters based on anyone you know? And they never are. I mean, unconsciously they must be. I must take things from people and things I see on the news and books that I read. I'm sure we all do that, but consciously no. You know, although my friends will try and claim the best characters for themselves, that I'm many. Yeah, so yeah, many interesting requests, and a lot of you know, one lady messaged me to tell me that there were loads of mistakes in my books and I should hire her as a proofreader for the next book, you know, to improve it. Yeah, I've just had loads of people tell me that they can help me improve as a writer, but I don't know what that, because I don't reply, I don't know what they're selling. They must be selling something. But for the most part, just really lovely messages, and loads during lockdowns who from people that have said that, you know, I helped them through it, you know, help them escape for a while when people are stuck at home, which is the nicest message. And lots of people that, you know, I've had some really emotional messages from people that have had a duchess in their life or have been duchess when they were children, and it's surprising how many people had such a rough time, and so you know, so depressingly common for children to become carers and to grow up way quicker than they should, and to have no real childhood. You know, they kind of just skip it entirely, and their life is just responsibility and pressure. And I've had so many people like that message me, you know, and just say that, you know, they could relate, and it's really lovely, and it's really sad, and I'm glad they enjoy the story. You know, for the most part, they just say that, you know, they really, really loved it. And so I know that I've done my job at that point.
Yeah. I always ask, and this is going to be an interesting one as you have experienced a lot, but since you began writing, what's been your standout favourite moment?
That's so difficult. God, so when I began, I had no kind of bigger, no bigger goal than just, reaching readers, and then the goalposts change quite quickly. You want a foreign deal, and then you want a TV deal, and then you want to win an award, and then you want to be a bestseller and things like that. Probably finding out I was a New York Times bestseller. That's something that is so big, I didn't ever even dream of it. I didn't ever think it would happen. And my daughter was teething at the time, and I was trying to get her to sleep, so I missed the call from my US editor telling me that I was a New York Times bestseller. So I'll never forget that. The Disney deal, that was like a pinch me moment. It's Disney. It's mad, isn't it? Isn't it mad? I still can't quite believe it. And then, of course, the Dagger. And Theakston's. That was amazing, Theakston's, because I've been going to Harrogate forever, and I've always watched kind of in awe, the authors that get longlisted and then shortlisted, and it's such a tough long list and such a tough shortlist. You're there with like legends of the industry and writers that you've been reading forever and that you've admired forever. So to win it was, I still can't believe it. I don't think it's something that will ever sink in. If I didn't have this giant trophy right behind me, I would not believe it. I wouldn't believe it. So in answer to your question, I've been very lucky, I think, to have so many moments. Just loads. Yeah. The first newspaper review, that's always really cool, running out to buy a newspaper because your book's in it. It's I still feel like a fan when I go to these things, rather than an author. So everything is just lovely.
And is there anything left that or what's your biggest goal now? What's the goalpost now?
I'd like to see the characters on screen. So it's one thing, TV deal with Disney, things like that. Actually getting to the finish line takes a long time and a hell of a lot of work. But we're on the right track, for that to actually happen. So that must be a very, to see lines that you've written, spoken, but on screen must be another one of those moments. But yeah, just to keep improving, I think, as a writer. I get asked a lot now about whether I feel pressure because We Begin at the End did quite well, to top it or better it. And they're each their own thing. I write the best book that I can at that time. And will hopefully become a better writer as I get more experience. So yeah, just to keep telling the best story that I can, to keep giving everything to it. That's what I aim for.
It was that's one thing that I took away from Bloody Scotland when I listened to Stephen King and Linwood Barclay, because Stephen King has 60 odd books, I think. And Linwood said to him, what motivates you to keep doing it? Surely by now you can coast. You don't have to keep trying to, write all these amazing books. And Stephen King's like, every time I send a book to an editor, I think they're going to come back and say, what have you done? What is this? He said, and I still want to write the best story that I can. So obviously that never goes away.
And if someone's like Stephen King, is in that position, it's telling, isn't it? I think, but it's a vocation, isn't it? It's not a job. It's something that we do because we love telling stories and love writing, and that any success that goes with it is just a bonus.
Yeah. Are there any authors that you fanboy over?
Too many. There's so many. There's John Hart obviously is the number one because he inspired me to be a writer, and I got to do a thing with him, an event at 3:00 in the morning in March it was, and that was a really special moment because I got to tell John Hart the John Hart story, about my life, and that was really cool. Kristin Hanna, who is massive, she's just a born storyteller. So she read We Begin at the End, and I was shelving her books in the library. The same with Mark Billingham. There's this thing at Harrogate, I said it on stage, I shelve their books and then they read, and then somehow I get a message from them and a quote. You know, it happened with Mark Billingham and then Chris Brookmeyer, and then I was shelving James Patterson and got a James Patterson quote, not long after. So I think it's like a weird kind of voodoo magic thing going on. So they've been, they're all special. John Grisham, I love. He's such a brilliant storyteller. John Grisham is one of those, where you can pick up one of his books and then all of a sudden you start skimming the pages, all of a sudden you're halfway through and you don't know how it's happened. And that's the mark of someone that's really gifted, I think. Just too many. How about you?
Just all of them, everyone. I mean, meeting you, Will Dean, Mark Bingham is always fun. But I mean, it would be Stephen King as well, I think.
Yeah.
Like most people, I've read him since I was a teenager. So
yeah, same. Brilliant.
And if you're able to spend a day with any author, dead or alive, who would it be?
I would choose my friend Tom Wood, because I haven't seen him since before lockdown, and he's one of my closest friends and a brilliant author, and I really miss him. I really miss him. We used to, our at least once a month we would just meet in London for dinner and drinks and just catch up, and talk about writing and how it's going and things like that. And I really miss that. I really need that, and COVID has been, it's been so brutal, hasn't it, for so many ways, in so many ways, and for so many people. And it makes you kind of appreciate the small things that you took for granted.
Yeah, but then if it wasn't for COVID, I wouldn't be doing this, I don't think. So
so it's strange, isn't it, how life works? It is really
very.
strange. And I think of all the bad things that I've been through and the difficult times, and then I think sometimes I wish if I could do it differently, and then I think I wouldn't have ended up being a writer had anything been different in my life. So I don't like to look back too much.
No, it's best, I think.
Yeah, I think so. You can drive yourself a bit mad, can't you, asking the what ifs?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, it's not worth it because nothing's going to change, so it's a waste of time.
It is. You just have to take something from it, learn from it, and keep moving, I think.
So although it doesn't sound like you have much, when you do have free time, what do you like to do with it?
Play with my kids a lot. We play endless games of football and hide and seek. We're really into at the moment because we had a small house that's been turned into a bigger house, so now there's loads of places where they hide and I can't find them ever, and most of the time I just give up like quite quickly, and I put the TV on and then they turn up about 20 minutes later. So yeah, spending time with my kids. I like to watch boxing. I really love that. I really like big fight night. It's like my best thing ever. I don't reading, obviously, watching TV occasionally. I really miss that. When you can binge on box sets. I haven't done that I can't even remember, since before We Begin at the End was a thing. Was probably the last time. Gym. I go to the gym almost every day and swim and things like that, and that's because if I didn't, I would be stuck at my desk all day and I would never come out for air, and I found that I'm happier when I'm busy, for one, and when I'm exercising. They're two things that I kind of, I like a day off. I really enjoy it, but only when I'm busy on the other days, if that makes sense. Like my dad retired quite young and then got so bored he went back to work again, and then he's retired like 3 times. And I kind of get it. Do you know what I mean? That thing, where all of a sudden if you get up in the morning and there's nothing on the calendar, that's only nice if you've been busy beforehand, I think. Certainly for me, that's true.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because we moan that we're too busy, and we need that.
Yeah.
If you were able to travel to any period of time, either forwards or backwards, where would you go?
I'm a child of the 80s, so I love the 80s, you know. I'd be too scared to go forward because I would discover that I bombed as an author at some point. And that'd be really depressing. Too scared to go back in case I tweak something and mess everything up, you know, like Back to the Future style. So I'd probably just stay where I am. Obviously do the lottery thing, you know, go and get the lottery numbers, of course. No, I would be right here, right now, I think, talking to you, which is nice.
So obviously, we're only born a couple of years apart, so I'd like to go back to the 80s, but as like an 18-year-old, so that I got to experience all the bands and everything.
Yeah, and the amazing fashions of the 80s, obviously.
As long as you didn't get a mullet, as long as you know that they're bad even now.
Yeah. Yeah. I would so be that person as well that had a mullet. You know, I followed all of the trends. Yeah.
If I was to ask your darling wife what your most annoying habit was, what would she say?
That I don't sleep. You know, it's a problem. It's always been a problem. I've never been good at it. I tend to wake her up accidentally quite a lot just because I'm tossing and turning all night. I'm just really bad at it. And I've tried everything you can think of, I've tried. And I just find it, the second I switch the light off and lie down, my brain switches on. You know, it's like, and so I will write notes for the book. Most of the note taking is done at 3 a.m. And that's, yeah, I did it last night. It's they just come into my head, you know, plot points and things like that. And I think if I don't get this down, I'm gonna forget. And that's happened before. And I'm certain I've forgotten like the best idea for a book that anyone's ever had.
And who was your first celebrity crush?
Maybe Kylie. I think so. Yeah, there was a lot when I was a teenager. a lot. How about you?
I don't remember. I really don't. I mean, I assume it was Jason because, you know, it was.
Yeah, I remember Neighbours was a big thing when we were young, wasn't it? It was like everyone watched Neighbours. And so obviously I was completely in love with Kylie Minogue. Yeah, that's the first that I can remember.
Yeah, I saw Jason Donovan at Meraki Festival and the Heart Showground a few years ago. And I was right at the front because I was on my own and I was literally like right at the front. And I was surprised I remembered all the words to all the songs.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, they've aged really well, haven't they? I mean, Kylie is still my crush now. So.
Well, she is hot, to be fair.
She is, yeah, no doubt.
And Jason Donovan wasn't too bad either, actually, as far as I recall.
Yeah, so I think we did well. I think we crushed well.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Nothing embarrassing.
Are you working on anything at the moment and do you know what you're doing next?
I never know what I'm doing next. I am working on the new book, the new adult crime, massive, big crime love story spanning 30 years in the US. And that will be out in spring 2023. That's the plan.
Oh my God.
I know. That's the plan. Yeah, assuming I hit my deadlines and things like that, and that's a big if. But yeah, that's what we're aiming for. And We Begin at the End is still it's still slowly coming out. It's just come out in Germany, and then it will be France and Italy, and so there's still a lot. You know, I still do quite a bit of PR and things like that for that, which is lovely because I didn't want to say goodbye to Duchess. So I found it quite difficult balancing, you know, because when I start a new story, I like to throw myself into it and block out the outside world. And I'm slowly discovering that that's not possible. You know, you have to learn to put things in boxes, and you don't get that luxury, really, you know, to just have a long period of time without anything else going on. So I think that's true of just the world in general. You know, during COVID, I found it hard to write because of what was going on in the world, you know. it's hard, isn't it, to just shut things out. It's the same with reading, you know, just escaping into a book or TV or anything. It's been harder over the past year or so for me. It's difficult.
It is. What's the best book you've read in the last, say, 6 months or so?
The Last House on Needless Street. I just loved it. I loved that book so much. I can't remember if it was 6 months or longer ago that I read it, but yeah, that was such a standout. You know, she's such a talented writer, and I was in the mood for it. I was in the mood for something a bit gothic and a bit scary and beautifully written, and yeah, I just loved it. Brilliant book. How about you?
I need to read that. I keep seeing about it. Oh God, I've read so many good books this year. The most recent perhaps is Invisible by Sarah Bourne, where a woman is wrongly imprisoned under terrorist charges.
Right.
And then she goes to Pakistan to find her husband, and all sorts happens. It was just brilliant.
I shall read it, definitely. But you must get sent a lot of books.
Literally, I read arcs. I don't read anything that I want to read. I just read the next arc.
Yeah, I tend to do the same. And when I was working in the library, I just grabbed every book that I was like a magpie. Anything shiny and new and that I like the look of, I just took and read. And but it's been harder and harder. You know, not just finding time, because I'm exhausted by the time I do evening events and things like that. It can be like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I trade in the stock market in the morning, so I'm at my desk at 7. So between that and the baby, who is sleep training, is it just doesn't leave enough time. You know, and we went on holiday. We went to Greece for a couple of weeks, and I took so many books and I read nothing. It was so depressing. Because holidays before kids were just lying by the pool reading. Like I could get through 10 books easily, and so I really missed it.
Yeah, I thought I'd read loads when I went to Scotland, because 7 hours on a train.
Yeah.
There and 7 back. I read 1 book over the whole weekend. just
yeah, but it's like that Harrogate, isn't it? You're never in the hotel. You're never in your room ever. And I think that's the way it should be. It's just too much fun, isn't it? There's too many people to speak to and too many brilliant panels to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't think I have any more questions for you, unless you think there's anything that I haven't asked you about that you want to tell us.
I think you've covered everything, and they were really good questions. It was a really interesting chat, and it's taken ages for us to arrange this, and I'm so glad we did. I've been looking forward to it. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome, and me too. Yeah, I finally cornered you. I still haven't got Simon Koenig. I'm gonna have to beat his ass when I finally catch up with him.
I love Simon. He's great. He's so much fun.
Yeah, I know. I was telling him off, and still he hasn't got back to me, but he'll pay for that. It's fine. So before we go, if there's anyone left in the UK that doesn't know who you are or where they can get your books from, would you like to remind them?
I am Chris Whitaker. This is my book, in case you can't see the 7,000 copies I've got behind me. I don't actually own anyone else's books, so you can get my books everywhere. I think Waterstones, Smiths, Amazon, supermarkets, I think. I don't know, I'm really rubbish at this. Or you can just message me and I'll send you one.
Easy as that. And where can they message you?
Twitter, I'm at Witty Author, and Instagram at Chris Whitaker Author, I think. Yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm a bit crap on social media, but I'm getting better.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Donna.